Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and we've got a Yon Xanadu knife. This is my first knife from this company. This is the YX for Yon Xanadu -622. It's a slip joint knife, a double detent slip joint knife, and I'll show you what that means later on in the video. They say it's 14C28N. Front flipper, a slip joint front flipper. How often do you see one of those? Just before I get into the review, I've already recorded the review and I forgot to talk about the texture on the G10, this insert. It's like a starburst that pops out right at those screws, and it offers more grip and it looks kind of cool. So I'll show you a close-up of that right now. As best I can do, these natural or jade G10 pieces are really hard to catch on film appropriately, especially on still pictures that are close-ups. So the color looks a bit off, but it is actually very well made for the most part. We'll find out the pros and cons and everything else about this knife. After this one commercial break, we'll take a good close look at it. Keep watching. Well, here it is in a nice close-up. You see that logo there. It looks like an X. You know, the one line's thicker than the other one. Of course, Bandit's got to run around and make little bits of noises in the background. We've got a drop point. It's a little bit like a spear point or an oversized pen blade style of shape. Satin grind. We've got a swedge all the way across the leading edge. Very close to the tip is where it terminates. The flats are stone washed. On this side, we've got the YX-622 and the 14C28N. The first question you're going to ask, is it real 14C28N? Maybe not. If you know of the channel Love Them Knives, Lee has a lot of knives tested. He's had, from what I can find, 5 Yon Xanadu knives tested. Out of the 5, 2 of them were different steels than they claimed. One that claimed to be D2 was 8CR13 MOV, and the one that claimed to be 14C28N was D2. So the very worst case scenario it looks like is that this would be 8CR13. And for the price of it, hey, I don't mind. If this was 8CR13, I'd be totally happy all day long. I'm ecstatic if it's really 14C28N, but I'm happy even if it's D2 or 8CR13 MOV. So that's the discussion about the steel type down. We've got, the belly here, a fairly long straight section. The sharpener's choil is too small, maybe slightly poorly placed, but mostly too small because the grind goes up the plunge, like the sharpening grind goes up the plunge a little bit. It's most obvious on this side right here. Not terrible. It's not that hard to make that bigger. I've done a video on that if you want to look for it. I'll leave it down below in the video description area. And I'll also leave a link down below in the comments on how to get to the video description area. I keep hearing questions from people. They don't know how to get to my links. You need to know how to get to the video description area. There's a lot of video makers who leave a lot of good information in those spots. It's below the video, and there's a video that you can watch for either a computer or a cell phone, tablet, whatever. Any kind of format, that video will show you how it's done. It's not a video I made because there's so many good videos out there showing it already. I'll just link to one of those. Back to the knife. The blade, flat grind here. I'm going to call it a full flat grind. If there wasn't the swedge, it might not come exactly to the spine, but it's close enough. I'm going to call it a full flat grind. We've got jimping on the spine here. It's pretty good jimping. And there's a little bit of jimping on the steel here where your grip is, where your index finger goes. Now, this is a slip joint knife, like I said. It's a double detent slip joint knife. If you've not seen those before, keep watching. I'm going to take it apart and show you exactly how that works. Some knives that are front flippers, like this one is, this section here actually stops the knife blade from being able to close onto your hand. Not this one. You can, start to close it and get that cutting edge into the side of your finger fairly easily. So treat it like you would any knife. Don't put stuff on the spine of the blade while you're cutting. Any folding knife, that is. You know, if you treat every folding knife as if it's a slip joint knife, you're always going to be safe, even if the lock fails. And locks can fail. It's just the way it is. Even a triad lock can fail. You know, if that lock bar here breaks for some reason, maybe there's a flaw in the materials, the steel's got some kind of flaws in it somehow, and it didn't get noticed, and it could fail. I never trust any lock, and I've never gotten hurt because of a lock failing or a slip joint slipping. It's because I always treat them with respect. I do get cut. You know, I got two little nicks right here, and I got another nick somewhere else, and that's from, I've been playing with this knife. This video is going to come out really soon. This is the S745 by SRM, Sanrenmu, and I really like it. And that little spot right there gave me a couple little nicks. It's big enough for my finger. I'll talk about that in another video, but I was just not being careful. But I've never had a slip joint close on me and hurt me. And I've been playing with knives my whole life, and I'm not a young man anymore. I know I'll look great, but I'm not a young man anymore. Let's get to the handle now. The handle, it's got G10 and G10 inserts. The inserts come in this jade or natural G10 color, OD green or orange. So that's quite nice. The pivot pin is D-shaped, so it's not free spinning. They put it in the wrong way. Like this show side should be on the show side. But we've got a T8 screw there and T6 screws back here. Not that hard to take apart. The handle is not totally parallel. It's a little wider here than it is here. It comes a little bit narrow. We've got a very small backspacer. I think it's aluminum. It's not magnetic anyways. And it comes back and it's got an inset little lanyard hole right there, which I really like, that kind of lanyard hole, which means you put paracord through there and it's not going to bulk out really wide. And it's out the back, which I really like. I don't like lanyard holes up here, you know, because then when the knife's in your hand, you get, you know, pressure right there from the paracord. At least it's paracord and it's not that bad. But this thing's got the pocket clip. As you see, it's on an angle, so they'd have to make a second clip, a mirror copy to put on this side. You can't just take this off and put it on this side. It won't work. The pocket clip is going to come way off on an angle if you try doing that. Pocket clip is actually quite nice. You know, it has a standoff, so it slides into the pocket very easily. Let's demonstrate that. It climbs over, and I've never had a problem with it, you know, sliding under. Climbed over every time, and it sits like that. You can put it on an angle if you want to, and in that case, you know, it's going to sit like this. Here's the seam, but the knife is where this finger is. That's the angle of the knife. If you want it, you know, next to the seam this way, then that's how it's going to look. It's just going to be touching on that one post, not on the other one. But it's fairly well hidden in there. It's nice and small. Easy to pull back out of your pocket. You've got these screws sticking up a little bit that add just a little bit of grip and easy to remove. All right, now we're going to take this thing apart and take a look at how it's built. Okay, I've taken these screws out. There's no Loctite on these. Looks like there might be a very, very tiny bit of Loctite on this screw right here, but not much at all. So this is my first time taking it apart, doing it right here on screen. There is, oh, the stop pin fell out. So the stop pin is one of those internal stop pins that is, you know, right inside there. So small, but it works. I've got to get a cloth here to put some of these things on because I don't like getting grease on that or oil on there. Nicely oiled, as you can see from the residue there. But steel ball bearings for good action. Detent on this side, and you can see the detent line. And there's a detent on this side and another detent on this side, and you can see the line. So why is there two detents on one side and only one detent on the other? Well, it's one detent to overcome to open the blade and two detents that hold it, well, this one and this one that hold it in the open position, and just one detent that holds it in the closed position. On this knife, you've got two of them, one on either side, pushing in to hold the knife in place in the closed position. That's all that a double detent is. Here's the pivot pin. It's D-shaped, and yeah, both sides have a D-shaped cutout. So yeah, there it is. Nice and simple, easy to make. I'll clean it up, give it nice new lube, and put it back together. So yeah, it's quite simply made. And yeah, the detents on it are quite good. They hold it closed very well. The jimping across the top there works very well to open the knife as a front flipper. It can be a little dangerous to close the knife because you've got to overcome those detents to close it, but then there's nothing else to stop it, and it's got ball bearings, as you saw, so it just wants to fly closed. There's been a couple times where I just pushed a little bit too hard, and it's like that. It just comes flying closed, especially if you push too high up. When it overcomes that detent, it can just fly closed, and if your finger's in the way, you might hurt yourself. So that's a slight danger there. Be careful when you're closing the knife. Either do it two-handed, and then you're safe. If you do it one-handed, try to push a little bit lower and just a little bit, or push really high and then just a little bit and get it to come off that detent and then close it. So I wish I could turn my hand twisted like this and do that, but it's over here this way. So the jimping coming all the way around there makes the flipper work really well. So I kind of like that. So now it's time to go over all the sizes, dimensions, and all of that good stuff. Actually, wait a minute. I didn't do the size comparison, did I? Let's do that first. Here's the Ontario Rat 1. It doesn't even fit on the screen, does it? So this knife just goes, part way into the blade. It's much bigger. It's very near to the same size as the Sanrenmu 7010. So if you've got a 7010, that's the size of knife that this is. It's a tiny bit longer, actually, than the 7010, but not much. Very close to the same size. If you don't have a Sanrenmu 7010, I think they're $15, $17, under $20 US, definitely right now. I bought most of mine when they were under $10 US, and that was only like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So all kinds of different patterns. You can get the blackwashed, completely blackwashed ones. There's G10 on the show side, different ones. It's a frame lock, and yes, it's very much inspired by a Savenza. So the sizes, dimensions, and all that stuff, we'll have this on the screen while we go over those things. If it is 14C28N, you've got a Rockwell hardness of around 59, give or take. If it's 8CR13, it's only a little bit less, about 58 on the Rockwell scale, give or take. 8CR13 really is a good budget steel. There's way too many knife reviewers out there balking at it and saying bad things about it. It's a good budget steel. The weight of this knife, 54 grams, 2 ounces. A nice light knife. Factory sharpness, measured right about in the middle, 130 bests. That's around average for the knives that I review, so it was sharpened fairly well at the factory. The cutting edge length, 73.4 millimeters, 2.889 inches. The blade length tip to the closest spot on the G10 handle here, 72.5 millimeters, 2.854 inches. So it's under 3 inches every which way you measure it. The thickness of the blade, 2.94 millimeters, 0.1160 inches. So a little bit under 1/8 of an inch, not much. The blade depth, it's widest right about here close to the heel, 19 millimeters, 0.748, so 3/4 of an inch. The thickness behind the grind, measured right about where my thumbnail is now, 0.45 millimeters, 17.5 thousandths of an inch. Yes, it slices quite well. It's thin and it's sharpened well. The grind angle, 19.3, 20.2. It changes a little bit on the belly, but not much. Less than a degree change along the length of the blade on either side. So it's well sharpened. I like that. The handle length of this knife is 94.5 millimeters, 3.72 inches. So basically 3 3/4 inches. The grip area, I'm going to say, let's say, I like to do more rounded numbers for the grip area. It's under 9 centimeters, a little bit under 3 3/4 inches, but over 8.5, over 3.5, if you know how I'm doing that. The handle thickness, I'm not measuring it on the screw, but on the insert here, it gets a little bit big because it sticks out a little bit with those starbursts. The thickness is 10.9 millimeters, 0.429 inches. The handle depth within the grip area, it's just behind the steel part, because I'm not including that part in this measurement, right up here, 19.8 millimeters, 0.779 inches. And when the knife is closed, the deepest or widest area is 20.9 millimeters, 0.823 inches. And then the total length of the knife when the blade is deployed is 167 millimeters, 6.575 inches. So that's pretty good. The price for this knife, free shipping to Canada, the United States, Europe, UK, those are the places where I've got the prices from. $26.68 American, $34.43 Canadian, 22.93 euros, or 19.75 British pounds, as of March 21st, 2021. So my final thoughts, what do I think of this knife? I like it. Slip joint knife, legal almost everywhere. It is a one-hand opening, so people that, jurisdictions that require a two-hand opening knife, well, unfortunately it's not two-hand opening, but technically it's a slip joint knife, so, and under 3 inches, it's legal almost everywhere in the world. It cuts well, it's sharpened well. For the price, it's good steel. It's got a good look to it. The only thing that I would fix on it is I'd make the sharpener's choil just a little bit bigger. Other than that, I quite like almost everything. I would like a left side pocket clip, yes. But on a slip joint knife, is it really that big of a problem to carry this thing on the left side and then you take it out of your left pocket and open it up and use it? It's not that big a deal. I grew up left-handed, and so I can relate. For this knife, it's not a problem at all. The only other thing is a very small thing I mentioned before, the pivot pin being backwards. So I haven't recorded taking it apart yet. You've already seen it. But after I have taken it apart, when I put it back together again, I'll just put the pivot pin in on the other side so that this side has got the nice show side of the pivot pin. For you, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks for liking my channel, subscribing. If you want to help the channel out, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. I would appreciate it very much. I do need help making this channel run. I live on a disability pension, very tight budget, so YouTube does not pay very much in advertising and things, so I appreciate all the help I get. To all my Patreon supporters, I am very thankful for your help. I appreciate it very much. To everyone, thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, and remember, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now. And those of you who have headphones on, you might be hearing Bandit snoring right now.